right, hello and welcome to this episode of the Prelude Cares Network Podcast. My name is Steve Grandizio with the Prelude Cares Network, and I'm really excited to have Regina Black Lennox from Satell on today. Hey, Regina.
Hey, Steve. How are you doing this afternoon?
I am doing just great. I'm doing great. I'm so happy that you have a little pink. I have some pink, so we match. Just to tie it together.
We look like Bermuda, pink and turquoise. What could be better?
We look like we planned it.
There you go. There you go.
And we did not.
We haven't spoken for a week, so we certainly
haven't spoken for a week. Totally unplanned. So how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you. I'm coming to you from incredibly beautiful Marco Island, Florida. So hence the wave behind my head. And weather here is spectacular today, so I can't complain.
That's awesome. And you just retired down there, right? A permanent
move? Not retired
okay.
at all. I'm working just remote down here for a couple of weeks. I'll be back in PA shortly. But I'm able, thank God, since COVID, aren't we all masters of working remote?
Working remote. And I misspoke with the word retired. But
yes,
you have moved your, is this going to be your permanent home or your most of the time home?
This will be my 6 month and a day home, quite honestly. My husband and I have been on the island for 48 years. We came on with our oldest daughter. I was expecting our oldest daughter. And we've loved the island. We've always had a place here. This is the dream place. This is the great big place over the water. If I turned and showed you my view, you'd be moaning. So this is the dream place, which is wonderful. But we have a place in Ocean City as well, and then a place out in Chester County. So we're kind of back and forth a bit. The best of each season. What more can somebody ask for?
That is awesome. So 6 months and a day down in Marco Island. What, 3 months during the summer in Ocean City, and
probably 3 to 4, and just a little bit of time. And during that time, we'll do a lot of traveling. We do a lot of trips with our grands. We're taking them to the national parks. Bill and I have done all but 4 national parks, and the grands now are in the 30s with national parks. So they're the kids you see with all the national park badges all over their vest when you visit a national park. Cool. They love that. They love that. Yes,
that's great. And what was the impetus behind that? How'd that start?
We just love the American landscape. Bill and I have done all 50 states, and just love it. We actually started it because he was doing a White Mountain puzzle called American National Monuments. And he looked up at me and said, wouldn't it be cool if we could visit every one of these? And in my mind, that was, we're going to visit every one of the national monuments on this puzzle. Do 4 of them. And so it took us to all 50 states. We learned so much. And because we learned so much and fell in love with the national parks, we shared it with our daughters. Now it's their children who are having the same great experience. So in 2 months, in July, we will be at Mount Rainier. We'll be doing Olympic, and we'll be doing Cascades with the grands, and then go up to Vancouver and over to Victoria. So they love that. So they'll get another 3 this year. I think it makes it 34 for the older 2. The little guy just got started. I think he has 6 so far, but he'll catch up fast.
And probably even more special meaning with the 250.
You know what? It is amazing to believe that this country and the values that we stand for, at least in my mind, the wonderful values of liberty, are still with us so much. That is it's amazing. It really is. It's a gift to all of us that we were born in the United States or that we were able to live here. And with the semi-quincentennial and being in Philadelphia and all the great opportunities, it's amazing. We have people coming in from Israel, from London, and from all over the country. So it's lots of fun. And for our I'm sorry, Steve.
Yeah.
I was just
and is that
go ahead.
Yeah. No. Sorry to interrupt.
I'll finish the thought real quick. For the most recent Satell, our first national conference, we actually had people from 11 states, the District of Columbia, and 3 countries participating. So that was just unexpected and very exciting.
That's awesome. And when you mentioned that we have the visitors, were you talking about Satell, or are you talking about
I'm definitely talking
your
about
home?
Visitors for the summer are mine, but Satell Institute has been just exploring so many opportunities with so many of our members who are far flung now. Once upon a time, it was fairly localized to Philadelphia. We call it the mothership. But these days, it's so much broader. We have 7 chapters now, all by itself. So that's exciting.
All right. So before we get into the chapters, let's back up to 10 years ago, right? Celebrating its 10th anniversary. How did Satell get started? Give us the history.
It's actually a great story. I always giggle when I think of it. So Ed Satell is a titan. He is a visionary. He is a legend. And for all the time I've been with him well over 24 years. I served as his director of philanthropy, enabling all the projects that he did, whether it was a stem cell research lab at Rutgers, whether it was a nitrogen hydrogen alternative fuel lab in Israel at the Technion, whether it was projects at MIT or any number of great universities, or whether it was very local. That was my role, to be director of corporate social responsibility. Ed decided to retire at 80. And so we put out 700 some notices of Ed's retirement, and everyone kept laughing because throughout the whole thing, I was very honestly saying, this will never work. I've worked for Ed for how many years? This will never work.
Retirement will never work.
Retirement will never work. It lasted less than 3 months. And
you were wrong. It worked for 3 months.
It didn't work. Believe me, it was a rough 3 months. He was chomping at the bit to do something. And he'd always had kind of a plan in the back of his mind for his foundation and his corporate trust. But being Ed, he wanted to do more. And he had all the energy of the Energizer Bunny. And so we began to have a talk about what we could do. I sat on the Philadelphia Corporate Council at the time, and a lot of other companies and a lot of other leaders and companies that wanted to be involved in the community were asking me how we handle things like our adopted school, our programs with various great institutions in the city of Philadelphia. They were asking how. And in sharing this with Ed, we tried to think of a way that we could share that knowledge. And if you think back 10 years ago, we weren't using corporate social responsibility. We were talking about corporate citizenship, if we talked about it, or corporate philanthropy. ESG wasn't on the screen in the United States at all. And really, we weren't making the case. We were still in Milton Friedman's model that the purpose of business is to make money for the shareholders. We weren't yet fully embracing that idea that doing good means the business will do well. And so we began to say, how can we communicate that? How can we showcase that? And who do we need on our side to do that? And so we spent a large portion of 2015 both incorporating the Satell Institute and at the same time gathering focus groups, business leaders, nonprofit leaders, academic leaders, and civic leaders, and asking that question. And slowly but surely, the idea of a think tank so that we would have academic and research credentials, we would have a credible platform, as Alan Luxembourg of Foreign Policy Research Institute put it. But as Dennis Wynn, CEO at the time of the Franklin Institute, said, Ed would never be satisfied with a think tank that's static. And so we created a do tank. And the do tank is a member organization. It's great because it allows participation by leaders who are invested in doing well in the community. And so we don't work with the unconverted. We look at people who are already doing philanthropic efforts, and we help them understand how good it is for their company and how much more they can do with other like-minded leaders. At the same time, we absolutely made one of our core tenets the idea of multi-year giving. Because with all the work we were doing in the nonprofit world, we knew that 1 and 2 year gifts were difficult for nonprofits. They needed a significant amount, and they needed the stability of a multi-year gift. And that was literally how the Institute was born. We were lucky enough to attract great corporate leaders, Dan Hilferty, Bill McNabb, Bill Sasso, Bobby Keys, David DiStefano, some great corporate leaders. We were lucky to have some great academic leaders. Wharton actually invited us to become a part of Wharton, and we chose not to do that so we could be really nimble and move fast. And we attracted great nonprofit leaders. So our founding nonprofit board knew us well and was passionate about what we did and really helped us understand the importance of that multi-year giving. And just for a little background, Ed had with me, we had a nonprofit CEO forum for 12 years before the Institute was founded. So we were already having 6 times a year confidential professional development meetings with nonprofit leaders. The Institute gained from that knowledge and grew because of those great connections as well. And the level of trust in the Philadelphia area, we were known, we were trusted. That was a big help as well.
And that's where the concept during this phase back in 2015, 2016 is where the concept of the Satell and what membership looks like. And so when were the first, sorry.
No, it's evolved over time, but you're right. That was the genesis, as we say. And then because we are always member led, you know yourself how much we listen to members when they come up with an idea. Then it evolved from the great thoughts and guidelines of our member leaders.
Mm-hmm. And the first members, who were they? Who were the first members, both on the for-profit and then, well, even back up for a second. How do you become a member if you're a for-profit? How do you, because not everybody knows. I know, obviously, you know, not everybody knows. How do you become a member if you're a for-profit? How do you become a member if you're a nonprofit?
That's a good question. I'm glad you put that in there first. So if you're a for-profit, it's really simple. Ed wanted to take any kind of barrier off the table for people who are already invested in the community. And that idea of corporate social responsibility, making the community better, was the guiding mantra. And so he endowed the Institute right from the beginning, $15 million, so we weren't asking anyone for fees or dues. You didn't have to go to your board and say, can I join this organization? You didn't have to think twice about it, because a member becomes a member by making a $25,000 a year or more commitment to any nonprofit they choose for 4 years. So it's a $100,000 commitment or more. And we didn't tell people where to put their money. That was key. We use the expression cause agnostic. Any lawful nonprofit could become the funding object of any corporation. And that was a big difference. We weren't saying we're going to change or we're going to really move the needle on any particular mission area. We let the for-profits, the funders, decide. And it became apparent very quickly that we would have a range of members. We would have corporate members, we would have foundation members, we would have private foundation members, we would have business leaders who wanted to do it personally through their own philanthropic fund, and they were all welcome. Everyone was welcome. You asked another very important question, though. How does a nonprofit become a member? They engage with me, or they engage with a member of my team. Nonprofits can't self-nominate. They can't wave their hand and say, I want to become a member. However, they can explore with us ways that they can find their funder. And we always say, we stand ready to come with you, attend your board meeting, talk to a funder, start with your board chair, have a conversation with your board chair if you're a nonprofit leader. Think of who's already funding you, maybe at 15, maybe at 20, maybe at 25, and then ask them if they'll do it. They'll commit to 3 more years, because the year we're in counts. So if you said to me, I'm a nonprofit leader right now, and you are, of course, and I want to become a member, I would say, great, begin a conversation with your key team and your board. And I will stand ready to take anyone who might support you, lunch, dinner, coffee, Zoom, any way that I can answer their questions and help you become a member. Our membership commitment is basically one of honor. Our member form is incredibly simple. Steve, I know you've seen it. It's 2 paragraphs on 1 page. So it's not exactly a major contract, but it does stand for the commitment. And Ed Satell has a wonderful mantra. He has a million of them, but one of them is CEOs don't stiff nonprofits. You know, CEOs that we deal with want to make the community better. And so we've just had a wonderful experience. After people got started, they began to add nonprofits. And I'll give you some cases in point. John L. Walsh was member number 2. Jim Dever, and he always will be a hero in my eyes, because as you probably know, at the time, banks didn't make multi-year gifts. But Jim Dever, Bank of America, literally said, I'm going to see what we can do about that. He started with 1 nonprofit. I believe he has 6 today. through Satell, because when he finds an important nonprofit, there's a great story on our website about Sharing Excess, Evan Ellers, and how he met Evan at one of our events. At the time, I think Evan was 23. And Evan just was so appalled to find so many homeless in Philadelphia when he had credits on his meal card at Drexel that he went and bought meals, distributed them, and from there grew a mission that today is literally becoming international. So great story, you can read it on our website. But as people began to join, they began to talk more to other people. So we had Bobby Keys of Enterprise at the time, today Elite Salons and Studios. We had David Stefano of Vertex. We had Mark Beata, one of our great founding members. He got it right away. He got the idea of multi-year giving like that.
Is that Beata Nurses?
Beata Home Health Care. What a humongous and fantastic organization. And we never can question Mark's heart, because Mark turned his thriving company, 90,000 plus employees, into a nonprofit so that it would always be able to continue its mission. I mean, what can you say? We have just amazing members, and what they tell us is that they like being with like-minded leaders. They appreciate the conversations. After a year and a half, we realized that they really did like talking to one another. And what would be the best way to facilitate that besides our board meetings? And so we had our first conference. We had our first conference the day before the Museum of the American Revolution, one of our founding nonprofits, turned 1 year old. And we had Bill McNabb speak. Bill was amazing in telling the crowd, pay attention, CSR is here to stay. This idea of giving back to the community is here to stay. It's going to become a core business tenet. We followed that up not very long after. We do them every 6 months, Steve. We followed that up with David L. Cohen, who sat at the museum down in front of the stage. Tracy Davidson was doing a fireside chat with him, and he looked out at the audience and actually called some of his friends, who are great business leaders in the city, saying to them, we have to buy into this multi-year giving model, that which one of us would start in January with a zero budget line? We're literally setting nonprofits up for failure. What a powerful statement. And since then, we've had such amazing speakers. Number 3 was Scott O'Neill, 76ers, who talked about engaging your employees. We've had Jeb Bush. We've had Ginny Romney of IBM, who literally talked to us from the Naples Public Library because she was trapped in Florida by Hurricane Ivan. But she managed to get connectivity. We've had Bruce Van Saun of Citizens. We've had amazing AI leaders. We've had amazing corporate leaders. We've had amazing sports leaders. And we always have a member chair and a member committee. And I think that's the secret sauce. People get to know one another. They form the connections through those opportunities to work with other leaders to create a good conference and to provide meaningful take-homes, because we stand for the idea that you want to walk out with something that you can deploy with your company or maybe in your own life.
It's incredible. And it's
Ed's
funny.
vision.
If you would have thought 10 years ago that nonprofits, a question that commonly is asked is, who's your Satell? Like it's not even a name anymore. It's like, who's your Satell? So they want to know who their for-profit partner is in order to be a Satell member. So 10 years later, how many do you know offhand how many nonprofit and how many for-profit members there are in Philadelphia, in the Philadelphia chapter?
In Philadelphia, we're a little over 300 members. And in Philadelphia, we're over 500 nonprofits. It's amazing to think, and many of our nonprofits have more than one sponsor, because today many of our members sponsor more than one. They just choose to, they've come to appreciate the value to the nonprofits because the nonprofit leaders talk about it so frequently. They talk about it. They've come to appreciate the partnership that forms. John Glow, Philadelphia Insurance Company, Tokyo Marine, so major CEO, spoke at one of our nonprofit leadership summits, because we have another special event each year for the nonprofits. And he spoke with his nonprofit partner, Keisha Jordan. And I loved
There's another member. There's another member calling to become a member.
He's also a board member now, which is great. But John said something so amazing to me. As much as you think you know this, he said, I didn't really know my nonprofit. He said, I signed a check. But he said, through Satell, through the multi-year giving, through the commitment, I've learned about my nonprofit. And he jokingly said, and now I'm the guy, if I'm at a dinner party and it gets quiet, I start telling you about my nonprofit. I mean, the nonprofits in the room were all like this. Oh, it was just great. And we hear things like that all the time. So there's a power to the idea of the partnership, that for-profits and nonprofits work together for the good of the community. And that's been Ed's idea all along. He always believed that. He was always a hands-on partner with nonprofits. He wanted to know what worked and what didn't work. That's what we've done with Satell. And as I said before, we listen to our members all the time. They make the suggestions. They help direct the conferences. They serve on the committees. They really are the driving force behind Satell. And we're a very small staff. So believe me when I say they're the driving force behind Satell.
Well, and what you said is so important, Regina, that and I use the term all the time with our board, with volunteers, but when you can get it with sponsors and donors, is ownership. When they feel like it's their nonprofit, you can't, that is invaluable for a nonprofit. You want as many people saying, let me tell you about my nonprofit.
You are 100% correct, Steve. You've said it really well. There's also a sense of community deliberately, but it's grown beyond what we expected. Kids, human services, they're all in the same room. And from their conversations come amazing partnerships. I love to tell the story of Pastor Tricia Neal in Camden, who sat at her table during our legendary peer idea sharing sessions. That's really our hallmark. I was talking about needing people on weekends to pack boxes for her constituency and to help sort and shift and move. And Dan Templer of the Cradle of Liberty Boy Scouts was there. And he said, I've got scouts who are looking for a project. That partnership, I can't tell you how successful it's been. And I've got a million stories like that. I've got such wonderful stories of people who simply sat at a table, made a connection. I'll quote a great for-profit story. Joe Doherty tells this one quite frequently. He said he comes to every conference, but he said he doesn't think about CSR every day of every business day or every moment of every business day. However, when he comes to the conferences and to the events, he's looking for something to take back. He loves that. He loves the takeaways. He attended one. He heard about an employee emergency fund. He took it back to his people. They said, really good idea. They set it up within Buchanan, Ingersoll, Rooney. That was the May conference in September, October. The hurricane hit in Florida where they had a number of people on the ground. And Joe said it was so amazing to have that benefit for his employees. There's just a million stories like that. We have literally a million stories like that where someone either learned something, heard something, or sometimes shared something meaningful that the group heard and then moved on from there.
Well, so you'll love this. This morning, I met with Steve Spader from Equus Partners.
Sure.
So
Capital
who
Partners.
I met at the table at the conference. And I also met with Kathy Durrani from Ocean First.
Oh, Ocean First. It's wonderful.
So all today, that wasn't planned, that it was the same day. But those are two connections that I made and we felt from the table conversation was valuable enough for us to meet again and get to know each other a little bit better. So
that's why
that's
our
all
peer sharing is legendary. And I shouldn't say legendary, that's probably puffery, but our peer idea sharing is so important. If there's one thing that comes from every survey, and of course we survey every event to say, what are we doing well? What should we do better? People always say more time for peer idea sharing. They want those conversations. They want the networking component.
Yeah.
That is truly invaluable because I still remember Dan Fitzpatrick, Citizens Bank, great leader in our city, saying one time, when I come in, it's not competitive. I don't have an arrow in my head. I don't, or a bullseye on my head. He said, I don't have anything going on except the idea that together we can do more for the region. How many places can you have that? There's just not a lot of places. And at the end of the day, that was Ed's big vision. You know, he always says, think we, not just me. That community is every leader's business. And that's manifested by the Satell Institute. That's why there's nothing like it in the world, as far as I know. And that's why it's been surprisingly effective at spreading.
Well, that's a good segue, because so there's 500 for-profit members in Philadelphia, 300 nonprofit members in Philadelphia.
The opposite. 300 for-profit, over 500. So over 300.
Over 500. Gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
Across the board, however, we have just about 500 members and over 900 nonprofits. And that's because I know when we have nonprofits, from international nonprofits to national nonprofits to very local nonprofits that might have a staff of 3. It's whomever the funder selects. We never say which one. We have met and learned about so many great nonprofits. I find it fascinating when the nonprofits are together, or through us sometimes. Lori Capel, who works with me on this, many times we connect nonprofits. We did it this week, where we know that there's a group of nonprofits that are all working to support young adults who've aged out of the system, who live with autism. That's a really difficult thing because, you know, you're supported to a certain age and then you're on your own. For families, for communities, that's a difficult thing. And so it started with one group. Today we have a whole range of groups, and connecting them so they learn from each other and they share resources and they share information. They share best practices. You never know what you don't know until you're with another expert in the area. That's just amazing too.
100%. And honestly, you were in development. So a lot of these development directors are on an island by themselves, especially some of these smaller nonprofits, right? And if it weren't for these types of groups where they can network together, even for little things like a donor management software, tell me who you use, what do you like, what do you not like? Like, there's so much collaboration that can be done and so much advice that can be given behind the scenes that doesn't breed, they're not competing, right?
It's not competitive. Michael Thatcher just spoke for us, and he is, he's CEO of Charity Navigator.
Phenomenal, by the way.
Arguably is the Bible for nonprofits. You know that. And Michael is a great speaker. He spoke for us last year. He went back and looked at Charity Navigator's rating system. And one of the things he said was he loves to come because, in essence, nonprofits are always competing. There's a limited finance pool, and they're always competing. When they're at Satell, they're sharing. They're actively sharing and learning. And that's a big difference. And that's why he comes and, will speak for us. And we're so glad to have him. And that's why most of our speakers are willing to come. They're certainly not coming for a fee. They're always gracious. They're certainly not coming, for an ego trip, because corporate social responsibility is not about ego. It's about the community. And so they're really coming to learn and to share. And that's amazing.
Well, and you'll love this. Another byproduct. You mentioned what?
I love byproducts.
Yeah, so another byproduct. Years ago, when Kate went to our CEO at Prelude, went to her first Satell. Kate, if you know Kate, she's grabbing paper and she's like feverishly writing notes. But she wanted to create a little mini Satell, and that's where the Prelude Cares Network was born. And we became a Satell with WBEC, as you know. But then also, as part of the Prelude Cares Network, you talk about that collaboration and sharing. The groups of nonprofits who are in our Prelude Cares Network, So Good Now, Ronald McDonald House, Help Hope Live, Bringing Hope Home, Today's a Good Day, a lot of the same Satell groups, Little Smiles, we meet once a quarter, and it's all the heads of development, and we share best practices. We had a speaker from the National Philanthropic Trust come in and speak about DAFs last session. We're going to Dakota Studios, Barb from Dakota. So we're going to
Dakota. And they do such a great job. Yes.
Amazing job. So we're going to their studio so that nonprofits can see this, because they do videos for nonprofits at a discount as part of their Dakota Gives program. So
enough, yes.
So that is a cool byproduct of what those founding fathers of Satell, Ed and you included, probably didn't think of, but these are all the little tentacles that come out of something great like Satell.
So that speaks to the caliber of leaders. That really speaks to the caliber of leaders. Real leaders, understand that community is their business, and real leaders are willing to share and to learn. I am constantly touched by the humility of some of the incredibly, gifted and high caliber people, CEOs who are at the tables, and they're just listening. They're taking notes. They're writing things down. Just a couple of weeks ago for the Nonprofit Leadership Summit, we had a couple of great speakers. David Griffith had a few wonderful slides, and I was blown away at how many people sat there using their phones to take pictures of the slides. In fact, I wound up asking David and David Feingold if we could distribute their slides to our community so that they could enjoy those important ideas. I think that's one of the best hallmarks of leadership, that you're more concerned about the other than you are about yourself or your ego. And so I work with great leaders, and that's a key piece of Satell.
That's amazing. Well, why don't you tell us about what's happening now? Where's the expansion going? What are next steps for Satell?
Love it. Thank you. So a few years ago, Ed, who never stops, I joke that he doesn't sleep either, but he does sleep. But Ed is 90 now, and his vision continues to be big picture. He'll take an idea. During COVID, he took the idea of the $1 million match. Today, he is very actively looking at expansion with the idea that 50 Satell chapters in the 50 largest philanthropic cities in the country, each of them contributing, it could be more than $3 trillion to nonprofits. And we're really proud that today we have over 500 million committed to nonprofits. So when you think of our timeline and those dollars, that's amazing in and of itself. But we're doing kind of that spoken hub kind of expansion. So very logically, we looked at the city of Pittsburgh as a great chapter. Pittsburgh has a wonderful philanthropic profile. We looked at North New Jersey, Long Island. We looked at New York City, which is growing so fast. We looked south, Delaware, Baltimore, Washington, again, growing very quickly. We were really fortunate that Central PA has a chapter and that South Jersey has a sub-chapter. And so we're moving fast. And just this month, just in the month of May, we're moving into Columbus. So a lot of places, a lot of states, a lot of opportunity. We'll continue to go north. We'll continue to go south. As I mentioned at our conference, 10 states in the District of Columbia, and that really speaks for itself. And so I'm thrilled to say that today we live stream, we have live events, we have multiple events. At this point, if you go to our website and look under events, you will see between our roundtables, our mini conferences, our executive dinners, and our big conferences, the Institute is bustling all the time. The upcoming month of October, the team was laughing this morning about we literally have to take numbers for who gets what dates. So What a good problem to have, right? What a wonderful.
What's the website, Regina?
So our website is satellinstitute.org. You will find something we're very proud of. You will find a highly credible nonprofit directory. Last year, when Michael Thatcher spoke to us, one of our business members who was on the committee said, he said, I hate to say this, but I can't find what a nonprofit does based on its name. And he said, that's frustrating if I'm trying to find a nonprofit that might be providing veteran services and I don't know what the happiness. Thinking quickly of 20 nonprofits, I could totally understand that many times the mission is not part of me. And many times great nonprofits are involved in 5, 6, 7 mission areas.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that. In that course of that conversation, another funding member said, I'm embarrassed to say I donated to a nonprofit that wasn't my usual nonprofit, not realizing my usual nonprofit did the same mission, that they were involved in that too. And so Michael Thatcher basically said it's because we need a credible directory. So we actually spent last year putting together a highly credible business, nonprofit and corporate directory. You can search under 28 different common United States nonprofit categories, 3 of the top NGO categories from the United Nations. You can find the organization, and an organization that really invests in multiple mission areas, that's on there. So if you have any questions, you could probably find an answer. You can find the contact person. The only thing you're never going to find on my website is individual business leader emails or nonprofit leader emails, because we're really careful of our data. We feel that's a courtesy to the great people who are part of us.
Regina, that's fantastic. It's amazing to be a part of Satell. It's amazing to know you, to be at the conference. I'm very privileged to have been to both days of the conference earlier this month.
And you served as a moderator too. Thank you.
I served as a moderator at one of the tables, which was
very skilled at it. Yes, we appreciate it.
Great experience. And no, I appreciate the involvement and look forward to seeing what Satell looks like 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now.
So do I. Knowing Ed, 10 years from now, we'll be talking about 50 chapters because it's accelerated more than I anticipated. And we'll be talking about corporate social responsibility in business schools as well. I'm so proud. One of our founding members, John Elliott, shared that the UConn School of Business has implemented a master's in corporate social responsibility. This has become an incredible phenomenon. It's really become something that's important. I think today, all leaders recognize that community is every leader's business. And if that's the only thing we do, that 4-year commitment, I think it'll be a pretty good legacy.
Amazing. Well, I appreciate you being my guest today. Thank you so much.
I am privileged to be your guest. Thank you for the way that you help, spread the word about so many great things. Thank you for continuing to grow your Satell network. What could be better? And thank you for the opportunity to be here. I appreciate it.
All right. Regina, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Take care.
Wonderful day. See
you. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Prelude Cares Network podcast. The Prelude Cares Network gives back to incredible causes throughout the community, and we're highlighting those causes in this podcast. But the core of our program is working with companies like yours to be able to help you save money and give back to the community without spending a penny. So it's the true win-win. If you're interested in learning more about what Prelude does and the Prelude Cares Network, go to preludesolutions.com/giving back, and you can learn more. Reach out to me. You can link in with me on LinkedIn at Steve Grandizio. Follow us on LinkedIn at Prelude Solutions, and we'd love to be able to help your company and your organization save some dollars and also make a contribution to some fantastic causes. Have a great day. Thank you for joining.